Hey everyone, we're just gonna wait a few more minutes before we get started, but I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. So if you can hear me and everything sounds good, if you're starting to watch, if you can just give a little wave on Facebook just so that I know. Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Can you send a wave if you're watching? Or a heart or something, just anything. My assistant's over here on this couch. She'll probably join at some point. If you're just starting to come in to join, if you want to grab a pillow or some blocks, if you have blocks, those would be great. If you don't have blocks, you can use some books. You might also want to grab, excuse me, a towel or a blanket or something as well when we come more into our restorative poses. The playlist, if you'd like to listen to music throughout this, is called Spring Equinox 2020, and you can go on Spotify under Chrissy Vaccaro. It's all free, or rather, it's a public playlist. It's all caps rather, and you can just listen on your computer or your phone or however you're streaming anything. If you want music, if you want to listen to your own music, you're more than welcome to as well. And a few more minutes and we'll get started. This is a free class because I'm not going to charge money for any of these that I'm going to do during this crazy time that we're in. But if you would like to donate, I am going to donate any money that people give to Behind You, which my friend Erin Truix has organized for a lot of the restaurant, bar staff, hospitality, and industry people in the Salem area. I already made a personal donation, but I figured this is a good way to sort of bring some attention to that. So this class will, any money that you donate, which I did post about, you can PayPal me or you can Venmo me, and there's lots of stuff on the Facebook posts about where to send it to. This class will be donated to that. Some of the other classes I do, you know, there's going to be a lot of need out there, so we'll do our best to spread the wealth around. So let's get started and come into a comfortable seat just for a moment to, actually, you know what? I'm going to have you guys start on your backs. So lay down on your backs. And you might bring the soles of your feet together and your knees wide. You could bring blocks underneath, or you might just bring your feet wide and knock your knees in. So find something, a comfortable shape where you feel like you can be supported and you feel like you have the ability to relax and expand. Just peeking in just to say hi. So from here, begin to come into a nice, easy, calming breath. And think about, as you inhale and exhale, with each breath that you take and each exhale that you release, see if you can make that inhale and exhale a little bit longer each time. So the longer we make these breaths, the longer the inhale and the exhales last, the more our body starts to settle, the more our mind starts to settle. And when this happens, we begin to come into the parasympathetic nervous system. And right now, with everything that's going on in this world, it's a global thing. We are all in this together. Our sympathetic nervous system, so that's our fight or flight. And, you know, we're all having that. We're all feeling panic. We're all feeling anxiety. So this parasympathetic really gets into the rest and digest. So when we can slow down, and we can just forget about everything on the outside for just an hour, we can begin to settle in and settle down. So take a few more breaths. If you have the space in your house, maybe take your arms a little bit wider while you're laying on the mat or the floor, like a T. Or you can cactus your arms just to find a little bit of space in your heart. Lucy's staring at me because she has no idea what I'm doing here. With the feet wide and into the mat, bring the knees apart now if you have them there. If your feet were together with your knees wide, bring the feet into the mat. Bend your knees, take the feet about as wide as the mat if they're not there already, and then begin to gently rock the knees from side to side. So just a little bit of movement into your low back. See if you can pull in through your belly button, feel that engagement. And then come back into center. You can toe heel your feet to back about hips width distance. From here, bring the arms down by your side. Press your feet into the mat. And then pull in through your belly button and just gently begin to bring your hips up off the mat. Just a couple of inches. Think about really pressing the feet in, heels pressing out just a little bit. You don't have to go very far to begin with. Just a little bit of decompression in your low spine. And then come all the way back down. Take a deep breath in. Maybe an audible exhale, just sigh it out. From here, pull your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Rock a little bit side to side. Bring your left foot into the mat, raise your right leg to the skies. If you're standing on the ceiling, interlace behind the back of your right thigh. Press your thigh into your hands, hands into your thigh. If you want, you can extend your left leg. I don't know if I have space to do that in my space here, so I'm going to keep it bent. Now rebend into that left leg, foot into the mat. Start to bend into the right knee. You can grab for the outer edge of the right foot or just behind the back of the right thigh for a half happy baby. So a little bit of stretch into your hip. Press your foot into your hand into your foot. Really press your sacrum or your low back area right into the mat. Keep breathing and see if you can find that really gentle, easy breath. And now from here, begin to guide your right ankle over your left thigh for a little figure four pose. Now you can stay right here if this feels good in your hip. You can press your right hand into your right thigh. Or if you feel like your hips are open enough, you can begin to draw the left knee in towards your chest. You can interlace behind the back of your thigh, or you can grab for your shin. But keep thinking about energetically pushing the right thigh away. Continue to breathe. And then bring your feet back down into the mat. Bring them about as wide as the mat again. And then let them just rock, the knees rock side to side. Just gently opening the lower body up. Take a deep breath in and sigh it out again. From here, let's pull the left knee in toward the chest. And then straighten the left leg up to the sky. Like you're standing on the ceiling. Interlace behind the left thigh, press the hands into the thigh into the hands. Right leg can be bent or you might extend it long. Keep engaging through your belly here. This is a really gentle flow. We'll be doing just a little bit of flow and then we're going to get more into the restorative and the yin poses. A little bit longer holds to let the body just really relax. We'll get into the guided meditation as well. Rebend into the right leg if it's not already, foot into the floor, and then begin to bend into your left knee. Reach for the outer edge of the left foot or behind the back of the left thigh, half happy baby. Press the sacrum into the floor. The sacrum is that low back, it's right below your low back, so it's that flat bone between your tailbone and your low back. And you can feel it if you reach back there and touch it. It's flat, and that's really what you'll hear a lot of yoga teachers cue that. Big breath in, long breath out, and then begin to guide that left ankle over the right thigh. Again, you might just stay here and press the left thigh away from you to really feel that energetic push away. It starts to open your hip up. Or you might start to pull the right knee in towards your chest, but keep pressing that left knee away from you. I'm just going to do a little dummy check on this phone while you guys stay in this pose. And then bringing both feet back down into the mat again. I have my notched loggerhead beer stein full of water for this, don't worry. From here, just roll over to your right side, fetal position. Just curling up into a nice little ball. Pause for a moment here. This is really that seed position, that kind of beginning of a new cycle, and that's where we're at. You know, I mean, even with the craziness that's going on in our human world, in our human health, which is obviously very important and it's very concerning to us, but the rest of the world, the natural world, still marches on. So we can still celebrate this. We can get out in nature. We can revere nature in our practices, and that's what we'll be doing tonight. Come up to a seated position when you're feeling that you can sit up, maybe on a pillow or a block. You can also put a blanket down. You might take easy pose, Sukhasana, which is just a nice little kind of cross-legged thing. You can always sit with your legs straight. You can kneel. Just take something that works for you. And wherever you're at, see if you can find a nice tall spine. So stacking your shoulders right over your hips and engage through your belly so that you have this really supported spine, supported body. And we'll take a mudra. Yeah, my friend Kathleen does this one a lot lately, and I totally understand why we do it. It's Prithvi mudra, and it's an earth mudra. So your ring finger and your thumbs will come together. And then you might just bring the mudra. And mudra means seal. It's a seal of just sort of an intention. And this one really helps us connect to the earth. And what we need right now is that. And what we need right now is the feeling of grounding. So your palms could be down. If you feel good with them up, you can have them up. You might even just intent your fingers into the floor beneath you so that you really feel that support of the earth. And probably will be getting darker in here. I have a lot of Christmas lights, and that's sort of my lighting scheme, but hopefully you can see well enough and you can listen to my cues. There's going to be a lot of just laying around soon, so don't worry too much. Take a couple rounds of breath here in this seal, in this mudra. Start to think maybe about a new intention for the new season, the spring equinox, where there will be equal day, equal night. In the northern hemisphere, it's the very beginning of the growing season. You might have already started to see buds on the trees, shoots coming up from the ground, and it really is, for me anyways, so helpful to see this kind of stuff in a situation that we're in right now. It's comforting. And then bring the hands into heart center, Anjali Mudra, connection for the hemispheres of the body to the self, sort of the whole, and recognizing that we are all in this together, all part of a whole. And then release your hands down by your side, and fingertips can touch. You could also use a book or a block underneath if you feel like the floor is too far away from you at any time. One good thing about doing this in your home is that it's all your stuff, so you don't have to worry about other people's germs on your blocks. So right fingers into the mat, reach up and over with the left arm, just a nice side body stretch, and keep pressing that left hip down into the mat. And also if you get mixed up on sides and you do a left side before the right side, it also doesn't matter because you have two sides, so you just do the other side. And then come up and over. Bring the left hand down, right arm sweeps up and over. This time the right hip presses into the mat. See if you can relax the shoulders away from your ears just a little bit. Come back up through center. We'll roll over our shins and come onto all fours for tabletop. So you can move any pillows or bolsters or blocks out of the way. Trying not to knock anything over that you might have. And let's take a nice long spine here. Think about the heart moving away from the hips. Your toes can be tucked or not. Start to find a little bit of cat-cow. So dropping the belly as you inhale. Exhale, pull the belly button in, arch through the spine. And just find this movement here, inhaling and exhaling, moving along your vertebral column. Feeling each of your vertebrae move. And then I'll invite you to find some more movements here. You might take the knees a little bit wider. You might start to make some circles, moving in one direction, moving in the other. You might still continue to find that cat-cow while you move. Just a little bit of organic movement, allowing your body to move in a way that feels good. That's just so important right now. And then we'll take the knees wide, your toes can be together, sit your hips back, reach your fingers forward, come into child's pose. Again, if the floor is really far away from you, a block, a book, a pillow can come right underneath your forehead if it's not comfortable to come all the way down. Take a couple of breaths in your child's pose, close your eyes. And begin to let your third eye, which is the center of your forehead, just rock a little bit side to side. So it's like you're giving your forehead a little bit of a massage. Maybe take a couple of big inhales and exhales, like really loud, just let it out. You're in your own house, nobody can hear you. And if it's your family in the house and they hear you, big deal. Just exhale down into the earth. Feel that connection down into Mother Earth. And then we'll come back up, we'll meet in that tabletop. This time, tuck your toes. Feel a little press of your heels out. All 10 fingers are into the mat and your index fingers are facing forward. It's almost like you're turning two knobs away from each other so that you're getting those, the divots of your elbows. So the creases of your elbows are really coming forward. You're rolling your biceps in. And then just levitate the knees off the mat just for a couple seconds, a couple inches up. And from here, really press into the hands as you begin to rise the hips up, coming into downward facing dog. Now, if this doesn't work for you, if you've never done a downward facing dog, you can of course just come back to that tabletop and find a little bit more cat-cow. If you're in downward facing dog, maybe you pedal into one foot and into the other, just to get a little bit of movement into your hamstrings, a little bit of stretch. From here, let's roll forward to high plank, press the hands into the mat. We'll drop the knees down. We'll take the hips back over the knees, so you're kind of back in your tabletop. Toes tucked or untucked, but reach the fingers forward. We'll come into puppy pose. So you tense your fingers, your forearms are really active, forehead down to the mat. Puppy pose or anahatasana. Pull the belly button in. Anahatasana means heart chakra pose. So anahata is your heart chakra, and you're melting that down into the earth. You're melting that down, releasing some of the ties that are all bound up in there. From here, we'll just glide onto our bellies. Let's make sure I can find enough space here. I have a very long body. And come onto your forearms, press the tops of your feet into the mat. We'll come into Sphinx pose. So your elbows are a little forward of your shoulders here, and really press the heart forward. Super strong in the legs. Bring the forehead down toward the mat, hands right in by your ribs. We'll push our way back into tabletop. Tuck the toes. Bring the hips high again, downward facing dog. Soften through your knees just a little bit, and then begin to walk your feet forward all the way to your hands. Soften the knees as much as you need to. Let the head hang heavy, Uttanasana, forward fold. From here, we'll inhale, bring the hands to the shins as you come into halfway lift. Exhale, forward folds. Inhale, press into the feet, sweep all the way up to the sky. And then touch my fan. Bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, sweep all the way up. Exhale, forward fold all the way down. Now, the fingers can tent, or you can bring your hands to blocks or books or whatever if you need more space. Right foot will plant, left foot will step back. You'll come into a low runner's lunge, adjust as you need to. From here, just gonna shimmy that back foot a little bit further back so you can bring that left knee down. We'll sweep all the way up, coming into modified crescent lunge. You can pad the back knee if you need to. Now think about your right hip really pulling back to square with the left, and the left hip's pulling forward. Feet are really pressing down into the mat, and they're pressing kind of away from each other, but your shins are pulling together. So there's a lot of movement here, and the legs are very active. Keep breathing. And then bring the hands down to frame your front foot. You can use blocks here as well. Straighten through the right leg. So again, you're stacking that right hip and left hip over the left knee here. So you might have to shimmy this right foot a little further forward. See if you can find a micro bend in your right knee and then really pull that heel back toward the knee back toward the hip. Ardha Hanumanasana, half monkey pose. From here, shift forward. We'll come back to low runner's lunge. So you bring that left knee off the mat. Left hand will come into a block or the floor. Pull in through your belly. Think about squeezing your thighs together. Right arm up to the sky. Come into an easy twist. Little bit of flow. Start to move our prana or our life force. Bring the right hand down. Frame the front foot. Step back, high plank. Knees can drop or they can stay up. You'll shift forward, come down, chaturanga. I don't have enough space to do this without kissing my dog's toes. Come up through your upward facing or your cobra, or you can come back to Sphinx, and then we'll meet in downward facing dog. Take a couple of breaths. And come up high in the ball mounds of your feet. Start to walk, tiptoe your way again all the way up. Soften the knees as much as you need to. Let the head hang heavy. And maybe take opposite elbows here and just sway a little bit side to side, ragdoll. Never at any time in a yoga practice do you need to have your legs completely straight or hyperextended. In fact, it's better to have them a little bit bent. Little better flow of energy that way. Come back to stillness. We'll come to Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Hands come to your shins. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep all the way up. Let clear all that space around you. Exhale, come all the way back down. Inhale, halfway lift. Plant your hands. Left foot this time stays. Step the right foot back. And I'll switch to the other side. So find your lunge and then shimmy that right foot back a little bit and then the right knee down. Sweep all the way up. Now this time your left hip is coming back to square with the right. The right hip's pushing a little bit forward. Super strong and active in the legs. Really tall in your spine. Your heart's moving away from the hips. And then on your next exhale, bring the hands down to frame your front foot and then straighten through your left leg. Find a halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, maybe you forward fold a little bit more and really press that heel into the mat. Think about a little softness in this left knee and then the heel's pulling to the knee, the knee's pulling toward the hip. From here, shift forward, back into low runner's lunge. Right hand plants, left arm rises up to the sky. Thighs are pulling together. And again, you're growing really long in your spine, so the heart and your head are moving in the opposite direction of the hips, so you elongate through your spine. Left hand comes down, frame your front foot, step back, knees up or down. Optional vinyasa, come all the way down through maybe a baby cobra or your sphinx pose. And then we'll just come back into child's pose. So bring the knees wide, sit your hips back, let your head fall down into the mat again. And then just come up to sit. Let me see where we're at for time. Perfect. So we're going to come into some more relaxing supported poses, and I'll start into the guided meditation portion of this class. So I'm going to have you guys actually come onto your bellies. So we'll come back to that Sphinx pose. So stacking your shoulders. And then just feel a little press again at the heart forward. So you get a little back bend here. Legs are strong. And now from here, I'm just going to have you guys bring your head down towards your hands. You'll make a little pillow out of your hands. And your right knee is going to come out to the side at about 90 degrees. Your right foot can flex. This is half frog. And then bring your forehead into the mat. And you will stay there for a number of breaths as I begin to read the meditation that I've written to guide you on a different journey tonight, somewhere else. See if you can relax the belly into the floor a little bit more. And then just let yourself be taken into another place outside of everything that's going on. With each breath, ask your muscles to release a little bit more. And under a dark sky, just before dawn, as the moon is waning to new, we awaken our minds and our bodies at the cusp of Pisces season as the sun makes its way toward Aries, the child of the zodiac, the new beginning. All the stars are visible as you lay quietly peering upwards. The early spring constellations such as Canis Minor, Cancer, are visible in the pre-dawn sky. The waning moon challenges us to release what is no longer serving our highest good in order to dig into the freshly turned earth to plant our seeds at the new moon. These are the things that don't change, no matter what's going on in our lives. You are facing east towards the ocean's horizon line with the sky, the meeting of two worlds, the ebb and flow of the tide, moving under the waning moon, pulling water away and flooding back in at your toes. This rhythmic action, cleansing and nourishing the intertidal zone and the myriad of creatures beginning their life cycles this spring. You feel the power in your own body. For you are merely salt, water, and energy too, just like the ocean. And the ocean calls the sirens, the mermaids, the selkies back home to renew, to renourish. Be with their energies at this moment and ask yourself, where am I ebbing? Where am I pulling back? And where am I flowing out and expanding into new aspects of my life? Where can I shift to better serve my intentions? Barnacles and blue mussels have already begun to settle on the rocks. The new seaweed holdfasts have set up in the subtidal reaches. The periwinkle snails begin to return to the intertidal zone. The salt bath washes over them, and you tune into the sound of water rushing in, and then back out again, and then back in, and back out, just like your breath. In, out, in, out. Extend long through that right leg. Extend your arms in front of you as well. And bring the palms of your hands together. Forehead can stay into the mat. And then bring the hands up to the back of the head. So it's like you have Anjali Mudra at the back of your skull. Full pranam. This is a pose of surrender. So surrendering to everything right now, just for a little while. so that your mind can be taken somewhere else. Take a couple of big breaths. Think of that ebb and flow of the tide, in and out. The breath mimics that. In as it nourishes, out as it cleanses. Now from here, bring the hands back underneath your forehead. You might switch the cross of your hands. And your left knee will come up and out to the side at about a 90-degree angle. Flex through the left foot. And once you get yourself all set up, let yourself relax again. So really let the muscles get heavy, the bones get heavy, everything starts to get heavy as you relax into the support of the floor, the earth below you. As you listen to the ebb and the flow of the tide, turn your gaze toward the horizon. The sun, at the tail end of its journey through Pisces, begins to rise from the depths, softly turning the sky purple to red to orange until light peaks above the surface. Renewal and rebirth at the beginning of a new day and a new season. A season of equal light and equal shadow, a vernal awakening. Powerful energy to cultivate intentions for the seasonal cycle. Relax your breath. If your eyes are not already closed, close them. And let them roll up in your head a little bit toward your third eye. So let the eyes really just let go in the sockets. And they start to roll up and gaze at that third eye, the center of your forehead. And that's your center of intuition. And allow your intuition to lead you to an intention for your practice, for today, for the next hour, for the spring, for the next year. It doesn't matter. Just something that seems right and that pops into your head. It could be a word, could be a feeling, could be a color, a thought, a sound. And the first thing that you think of is usually the thing that your intuition is leading you to. You know, it's like that whole thing when you're like, oh, the little voice in my head told me I shouldn't do this, and you do it anyways. Well, we're all learning. Take a look at the intention. What does it feel like to you? What does it look like? How does that energy make you feel? Pull it into your soul as you continue to journey and awaken into spring. Extend your left leg long. From here, once again, extend your arms out in front of you. Bring the palms of your hands together. Bend at your elbows. And just take a moment here. Now you might start to swivel your hips a little bit side to side. Just rock them side to side. You could also bend through your knees. And then just let the knees, or rather the feet, rock a little bit from side to side. Re-extend through the legs. Let's bring the hands right by the ribs. Push yourself back up into tabletop. Bring your knees together this time and sit your hips back. Head can either come to a block, a book, a pillow, or the floor. And then just bring your arms down beside you. So this is a variation of child's pose, which is very much like a seed wrapped up. And that seed coat is just starting to crack open. Sending those first new shoots up toward the sun. And then just come up to a kneeling position just for a moment. If this is comfortable, stack your hips and stack your shoulders over your hips rather. And maybe come back to that mudra. So the ring finger and the thumbs together, your hands can either be touching the earth or palms down or palms up. Just feel that connection again, just for a few rounds. Reopening your eyes. And I'm going to suggest for this next pose you use a pillow or two, and even a blanket you can stack up to roll up depending on how much height you need. You can also do this pose with nothing on the ground if it feels okay for you. It's called deer pose, and it's a nice little spinal twist. So you're going to bring your right hip up next to the edge of your pillow or your bolster or your blankets or your blocks, whatever you have to help support you. And your legs just kind of can be, I mean, they call it deer pose because if you imagine, like, you know, Bambi laying on the side or whatever. So your legs can be kind of natural. From here, that heart away from hips thing. So grow a little taller in your spine. You're really growing long. Then begin to twist at the belly and the ribs. The belly now is toward your bolster or your pillow. And then begin to walk your way down onto your belly. So for a little bit less of a twist, you can bring your right cheek down. If you want more intensity, you can bring the left cheek down. And just relax into this. You're going to feel a big stretch in the top of your left hip. And once again, you're using those muscles to get your bones and everything into place. And once you get there, come back to your breath. Big breath in, long breath out. And see if you can relax anything in your body that is still holding tension. And come back to this story, this journey. Lucy's out and totally just sacked out in her spot on the couch. From the shoreline, begin to walk inland under the early morning spring light. The air is crisp and fresh. The maiden has returned, and she shines her nurturing light across the landscape ahead of you. The soft earth beneath your feet has been worked since earlier in March by the worms. The common earthworm. And actually, the most recent full moon we had is colloquially called the worm moon. And they activate really early in the season and start to do a lot of important things that we don't see. And ecologically, worms play an enormous role in cleansing, renewal, transformation. When they move through the soil, they start to aerate it. And then it creates space for water, for nutrients, oxygen, and newly sown seeds will be able to germinate better. So the ecology, this life, this is really the transformation. This little earthworm transforms the entire subsurface environment to allow growth, expansion, abundance during the spring and the summer. So ask yourself, where can I transform? How will my intentions allow me to live my highest life? How will it help me transform for the better? As you continue to walk and ponder the subsurface environment, gaze out along the path that runs along an old field stone wall near a meadow. The buds and the maples and the birches of the forest are beginning to swell. Early spring plants are beginning to unfurl and will be ready to forage in the coming months. In the fields, hellebore has come to the surface, the first flower of spring. Poisonous, yet beautiful, and heralds this arrival. The toxicity of these plants allow them to survive. When you're the first one through the surface, the only way to persist is to adapt in a way to deter those that may pluck you too early. So be strong as you forge your new beginnings in this season. Birds are moving through the trees, actively foraging, nesting, incubating their eggs. Rabbits have come out of hibernation and will birth their young soon. As you walk, observe as the field transitions to wet meadow, which eventually turns into dark, luscious, mossy wetlands. Transitions. Where are these transitions happening for you as the season changes? We have a lot of transitions we're going through together right now. Take a breath in. Take a long breath out. Focus on the small transitions in times of uncertainty. When we try to take on too much at once, that's when we get just really thrown off course. Begin to come back up on the right side. And just come back to that tall seated spine. And what I'll have you guys do is just bring your right hand into the mat. You're going to just kind of swivel yourself so your sacrum is facing your pillow or your bolster or your blanket, and your feet are into the mat, your knees are pretty wide. You can bend a little bit through your elbows here if you want to. And then begin to let your knees rock a little bit side to side. Try to keep the integrity of your core. So really keep pulling in through your belly button through all these movements until you get into these poses where you can release your muscular energy a little bit. But anytime you're moving, think about using your core, using your muscles. And eventually your knees will come all the way over to the left, so you're kind of making a half circle. And I'll just switch myself so that you guys can still see me. Your left hip is up next to the pillow. Grow long in the spine again. Start to twist from the belly and the ribs. And then begin to lay yourself down onto your pillow, onto the floor, onto blocks. Left cheek for a little bit less intensity. Right cheek for a little bit more. Once you've used your energy to get yourself there, allow your muscles to begin to relax a little bit more. In these wetlands, the skunk cabbages, the jack and the pulpits, and unfurling ferns pop through the earthy brown leaf litter and create a tiny world. The sedge tufts are greening, the pools of ice-melting groundwater are forming in low-lying areas near the wetlands, which will eventually turn into vernal pools, an important yet ephemeral ecologically hotspot for so many of our North American woodlands. We're here in New England, so this is very near and dear to my heart when you go out in the woods here. Life begins to teem as you look and observe carefully, deep and vivid within the womb of nature. Walk back through the wetlands and come into your yard now. You start to see daffodils, tulips, crocus, all popping through the surface. The damp earth scents are often more intense in the heat of the afternoon sun. Soon the bees will begin to buzz and pollinate all the early season bloomers. A sense of peace, comfort, safety washes over you. Nature marches on. Regardless of what's happening in our human lives, Mother Nature persists. Take comfort in that. These sights and these scents and these sounds reassure survival is possible. And it reminds you that you're grateful to be alive. Sharing this experience of living with all these other organisms of all types outside of yourself. You're merely one part of it all. Walking through the spring garden where you're cultivating early crops, you stop to listen to the birds, to breathe in deeply. You dig through the earth a little bit. You'll hold it in your hands, touching the soft, tender green leaves, perhaps noting the earthworms doing their work. The smells and sensations lull you into that same sense of peace, of calm, of safety. The fresh crispness of spring will soon transition into the juicy bounty of summer. And as that happens, ask yourself, what has been dormant and what is ready to rise again within you? What seeds are you sowing? Begin to come back up. And then just turning yourself back toward the center, whichever way you'd like to face. We'll take the pillows or bolsters or blankets behind us this time. And the sacrum will come to the edge of the pillow or maybe block. So we're going to come into a little gentle heart opener. So the legs, a couple of different options. You can have your feet into the mat with your knees bent. We're going to lay down, a little bit of support underneath us so that you can feel some expansion through the heart. You can bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. This is Supta Baddha Konasana. Or you might come back to how we started with your feet wide and your knees knocking in. You can also just lay with your legs long if that works for you. But come into this really relaxed and easy place and let yourself become heavy again. Sit down in a sunny spot at the garden's edge and focus in on your heart chakra, anahata, so that space that we're opening up right now in this pose. The color is green for this chakra, the color of new spring life. From your heart center, observe the green light beginning to swirl about and watch as it extends out from you in beautiful swirling tendrils, like brand new shoots reaching forth from the earth, extending, expanding, reaching for warmth, reaching for connection. The tendrils keep growing and connect you to every other living being around you. And as the green tendrils of light expand, they keep connecting further and further, weaving a tapestry of light from your heart center to every other heart center on the planet. As you breathe, just as every other living being does, feel the rhythm of life. Connect, expand, feel the ebb and the flow, release and cleanse, nourish and renew. As the spring afternoon passes into the evening, the light lingers through the budding trees. Warm air still swirling around you, the scent of damp earth. And you begin to hear the spring peepers singing their chirping chorus. And you can feel the warm blanket of clouds moving in for a spring rain shower from the dusky evening sky. You take shelter. You listen to the rain begin to come down heavier. It's the first heavy, warm spring rain. And this signals to many animals that the season has begun. New life is ready to come forth. Blue and yellow spotted salamanders make their journey from the leaf litter in the uplands toward the vernal pools to lay their eggs. Wood frogs, spring peepers do the same. Spring in New England has truly sprung. And focus in the sound of the rain in your mind. It's cleansing yet nourishing. And like the tide, like the season, take a couple of more breaths here. Imagining that tide, imagining the rain coming down over your head, over your body, washing away anything that's not serving. From here, extend your legs long if they're not already. We'll roll off of your bolster or your blocks or whatever it is that's underneath you. Come over into that child's pose again for a moment. So you're just coming into that fetal, I'm not child's pose, fetal position. And just let your low back release. And then come back onto your backs. And we'll just pull the knees into the chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Little rock side to side from hip to hip. And then extend your legs up toward the sky. And you can soften through your knees here a little bit. Arms can come down by your sides. Maybe wiggle your toes. Maybe do a little bit of rotation through your ankles in one way or another. You might even wiggle your fingers here. And then maybe come into stillness, letting everything drain in the opposite direction. So our lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like our heart. So the heart's pumping the blood, but gravity pumps the lymph. So when we switch it all up, it helps with that. This is also a very calming pose. If you're feeling stressed out or you can't sleep, just bring your legs up. And pull the knees back into the chest. You can give yourself a squeeze and rock a little bit more to more, side to side rather, or you might come into happy baby here. So full happy baby where you reach for the outer edges of your feet, press the sacrum into the mat, long in your spine, find that connection first, and then you might rock a little bit side to side. But really make sure that the spine is nice and flat into the mat. And bring the feet down into the mat. We'll make our way into Shavasana, so our final resting pose. You can stretch out long in your mat. You might take pillows underneath your knees, which is really nice, especially if you have low back issues. Hot tip when you're sleeping, also do this. You're sleeping on your back, bring a pillow underneath your knees. It will help flatten the low back into the floor so there's not that strain. And closing your eyes. And take a little scan from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. See if you are holding any tension that you can release. And then come into focus in your heart center, all the way out to your fingertips, whether your arms are down by your side or maybe in a T a little bit wider. And see where you can release anything that you're holding there. And come back to that imagery of the tide. Of the inhale and the exhale, almost as if you were standing at the edge of the ocean and you could see the water lap in and then go back out. Think of that wateriness in your breath as it lulls you further and further down into a state of relaxation. A state of resting and digesting where the outside world doesn't so much matter at the moment. take a deeper breath into your lungs and a long breath out. Begin to invite a little bit of movement into your body. So you might start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. You might gently let your head rock a little bit side to side. And from here, begin to make your way back over into fetal position, moving from a place of final rest to one of new beginnings. And then come up to a comfortable seated position. And back to stack the hips stack your shoulders over your hips. I'm trying to get Lucy to come into the frame of the shot to give everyone a little doggy love, but she's being resistant, shy. And let's come back to that mudra. So the ring finger and the thumb, either touching the floor, face down, or face up. Closing your eyes again. And then bringing the hands into heart center, Anjali Mudra. The seal of connection. And then we'll take the thumb knuckles to the third eye space. Bring the elbows a little wider. Shine your heart up to the sky. And we bow forward. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a nice restful evening. And enjoy spring. And try not to worry too much.